Araxxor is old school RuneScape's newest Slayer boss, and today I plan on killing it 1000 times, or however long it takes me to get all of the drops that I want on my Ironman. The boss itself requires 92 Slayer to kill as well as an araxyte task, which can be assigned from either Duradel or Neve. They can also be killed on a spider task, so if you are down bad on Slayer points, you can possibly kill it while you are point boosting or tutorial skipping. If you are an Ironman, a soft requirement that I would recommend is 94 herblore so you can make anti-venom plus potions, since the boss instantly venoms you if you aren't immune to it. You can wear a serpentine helm instead, but missing out on the Slayer helm's damage and accuracy boost while being on a task is pretty bad. The first thing I did when the update came out was check the Slayer rewards shop to see if araxytes are extendable, and it turns out that they are. It costs 150 Slayer points, and it is a must-have unlock if you plan on killing araxytes long-term. It increases the default task amount from 60 to 80, all the way to 200 to 250, so it is definitely worth it. I stockpiled over 3,000 Slayer points prior to the release of Araxxor, so I wouldn't need to worry about spending time farming points and getting tasks. After around 360 points worth of skipping, I pulled my first araxyte task. Throughout the entire grind, I really didn't have too hard of a time getting them assigned, since I have a decent block list and they have a high task weighting. The fastest way to get to Araxxor is using the hollowed crystal teleport shard, running outside, climbing over the wall to the east using 2 long ropes that can be bought from a nearby general store, and then running north to the spider cave. Using a fairy ring with the code ALQ or the ectofile and running south works too. Eventually, you can use teleport scrolls that the boss drops, but we will talk about the different drops later. Araxxor is weak to crush, so wear your best melee gear and bring your strongest crush weapon. I used the soulreaper axe, which is really good here, but budget items like the Abyssal Bludgeon, Zamorak and Hasta, or even the Zombie Axe all work as well. As far as the actual fight goes, it's a pretty fun and easy fight. You basically just camp, protect melee, and deal with 3 different acid-based special attacks that are determined by which color egg starts first in the cycle. If it's a red egg start, the special attack will be an acid drip, similar to the Great Olm's acid walk but much shorter. If it's a green egg start, the special attack is an acid missile. A big acid bomb is shot out and explodes after traveling for a while or until hitting a wall. If it's a white egg start, Araxxor does an acid splatter and launches a bunch of acid in a large arc around you. All of the special attacks are really easy to deal with, and all it takes is moving a few tiles to completely avoid them. At around 250 HP, there is an enraged phase. All you need to do is move 2 tiles after every hit. With a 4-tick weapon, it works nicely and you don't miss any ticks in between hits. As far as the spiders that spawn from the eggs, simply range them when they spawn. With a heavy ballista using dragon javelins and rigor, you one-shot the spiders. I didn't have one, so eventually I made the hunter's sunlight crossbow and used moonlight bolts to deal with them in 2 shots. It's a 3-tick weapon and the ballista is 6 ticks, so they basically are at both the same speed when it comes to killing the spiders. Leave the red spider alive and let it explode near the boss. The explosion deals up to 80 damage if the spider is under the boss. Just be sure to run away from it when it's detonating, cause it can do a lot of damage to you as well. The grind itself started off pretty slow, with a lot of kills being over 2 minutes long cause I didn't really know what I was doing. I had to bank every time after 1 or 2 kills cause I was taking a lot of damage and I didn't really know how to properly deal with the spider spawns. I was trying to kill them with the soulreaper axe, which does not guarantee a max hit like the Elder Maul or the other ranged weapons that I mentioned earlier. Hitting the mirror back spider with the melee weapon will reflect heavy damage back to you unless you use vengeance on it. I prefer the thralls and death charge setup, so I never bothered with that. I got my first teleport scroll drop at 6 KC. Once you figure the boss out and have decent trips, they easily sustain themselves. By the end of this grind, I had around 70 scrolls left over. 2 kills later, I pulled my very first elite clue. I ended up juggling all of them and turned each one of them into a master clue, so stick around until the end of the video if you want to see a small master casket opening. At 11 KC, I got my first araxyte venom sac. You can use these to make extended anti-venom plus potions, which are really nice for this boss. The non-boss variant araxytes drop these at a guaranteed rate, so you can easily farm these. At 22 KC, I got the coagulated venom, which I thought was some cool unique, but it's just a pet transmog that you obtain by getting a fast kill. It's pretty much the same thing as the charged ice from the Phantom Muspa. Overall, Araxxor's drops are pretty mediocre. For Ironman, it's decent since you get a bunch of alkables, herblore secondaries, raw food, runes, seeds, and some other stuff. You also get antidotes occasionally, so you can get most of your anti-venoms back from killing the boss. If you are a main, you can expect to get around 6 mil an hour killing Araxxor. The main reason everyone is killing Araxxor is for their araxyte fang and the 3 halberd pieces. The fang is used to make the new best in slot melee amulet, which has 10 more attack bonus in stab, slash, and crush than the torture. It also has 2 more strength bonus. The noxious halberd is a 2-handed slash weapon that is somewhere in between the soulreaper axe and the tentacle whip. It is a 5-tick weapon, and since it is a halberd, you can attack things from a distance with it. I don't really know how useful it is, but what I do know is that it is the new best in slot weapon for the corporeal beast if you do the stat draining method, and I kind of want it for that. After the first 30 or so kills, I decided to start bringing Bracelets of Slaughter. It's definitely annoying flicking it on after every kill, but I thought it was worth doing it. Getting some extra kills each task is always nice. But instead of getting more kills, I died and ended up losing this kill. I'm not going to lie, I did die a couple of times throughout the grind. 50 kills in, I was finally smart enough to bring in a ranged weapon for the spiders. I did not figure out about the Hunter Sunlight crossbow tech for a while, so I used the Armadillo crossbow for a lot of kills. It does not one-shot the spiders, but at the time, I just didn't know what to use. The first 100 kills were pretty uneventful in terms of the drops, but killing and learning the boss was a lot of fun. Doing new content on day 1 is always a good time. And speaking of a good time, I managed to get my first big drop. The noxious pommel was obtained at 187 KC. The first piece of the halberd was acquired at just under drop rate. Now, being 1 out of 3 on the halberd is nothing to brag about, but it's a good start nonetheless. I don't want to spoil too much, but I didn't get another important drop for a long time. Luckily, the kill times for this boss are pretty fast. Banking takes like 30 seconds, you can get nearly 40 kills an hour, and the boss drops supplies pretty frequently. The Elder Maul special attack almost never misses on this boss, which also speeds up kills as well. Also, the soulreaper axe got buffed a while ago, and it doesn't feel like a chore to use anymore. At 5 stacks with maxed combat stats, piety, and a divine super combat potion, you can hit over 80 damage with this setup. After my first task, I had a good amount of araxyte venom glands, and I made a bunch of extended anti-venoms. It makes the venom immunity go from 3 minutes to 6 minutes, so they are very useful for this. 300 KC rolled around, and I still had nothing other than the first halberd piece. At 339 KC, I got my first araxyte head. You need one of these to make the Araxxite Slayer helm, which I really didn't plan on making since I had recently gotten the Berserk helm and I wanted to wear that instead. I got a video for the Master Combat Achievement grind coming out pretty soon, so stay tuned for that. Here I finally got around to making the Hunter Sunlight crossbow, but I was using Sunlight Antler bolts instead of the Moonlight ones. I did not have any Moonlight Antlers lying around and I was too lazy to farm them. Sunlight bolts work fine, but you need to bring an Anguish or some kind of range strength switch for the crossbow to kill the spiders in 2 shots. 400 KC gave me an elite clue, and then the very next kill I got another Araxyte head. As far as I'm aware, you can't do anything with the extra heads, so they're completely useless. 500 kills into the grind, my hopes of getting spooned were coming to an end. With only the single halberd piece and the 2 Araxyte heads at this point, I was convinced that this grind might last until the 1000 kill count mark, if not higher than that. Want to know what's better than 2 heads? How about 3 of them? Here I was being confident that I would not roll another elite clue in the same trip, and I ended up getting the sneaking suspicion that I would have gotten one. Watson was holding on to one of my elite clues, and I was juggling 6 of them at this point. Over 400 kills after the first halberd piece, I finally got the second one, at 588 KC. I was really hoping to get the fangs so it would help me out for the rest of this grind, but instead I got the noxious points. All I needed was the blade to finish off the halberd, which was pretty exciting. A couple of hours after that, I got the most unexpected drop of the entire grind. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Araxxor pet, my first spider boss pet. You can actually destroy your loot for double the chance for the pet, but I never did that a single time. I just got really lucky. 655 KC for a 1 in a 3k drop. My streak of getting spooned pets lives on. I finished up the trip and then quickly used the pet transmog to turn him into Rax. I really don't like spiders, but I have to admit that he looks pretty cute. That is pet number 19. Somehow I almost have 1/3 of the pets, which is pretty crazy to think about. After getting the pet, I thought that going for the silver version of the Amulet of Rancor would actually be possible. It's the exact same thing as the regular Amulet of Rancor, but it just looks cooler. In order to get it, you need every main unique drop from Araxxor besides the jar, and then you have to solve a riddle within the spider cave. In order to solve the riddle, you need the transmogged version of the Araxxor pets, the Araxyte Slayer Helm, the Noxious Halberd, the Amulet of Rancor, and the Aranea boots, which are only dropped from the regular araxytes. With the most rare drop out of the way, I was determined to get the silver Amulet of Rancor. All I needed at this point from Araxxor was one more halberd piece and then the fang. Luckily, this boss has duplicate protection with the halberd pieces, similarly to the Abyssal Sire and the bludgeon pieces. Unfortunately, the pet drop seems to have taken all my RNG. 700 KC? Nothing. 800 KC? Nothing. Almost 900 KC, and still nothing. Things were looking really down, and I was getting pretty burnt out until this happened. Finally, I got the drop that I wanted the most, being the Araxyte Fang. I was so relieved when I got it, you have no idea. I immediately teleported out, dismantled the kit from my Amulet of Torture, and created the Amulet of Rancor. After a cool little animation. It felt so good getting the drop, especially since it's a brand new best-in-slot item that will be used for a very long time. My first trip with the Rancor felt good. Unfortunately, I don't gain a max hit for the soulreaper axe with this setup, but the accuracy increase was noticeable. It's such a fun weapon to use now, especially on task. Seeing an 84 max hit is so satisfying. Although I did have a weird interaction where I tried to tick-eat the ranger with the soulreaper axe special attack to gain 40 HP back, and somehow both the death and the HP gain both registered at the same time, so I ended up dying with 40 HP. Not much longer after that, I hit the big 1000 KC. The only thing that I was missing on the log at that point was the jar of venom and that final halberd piece. I was originally going to stop at 1000 KC, but since I was so close to getting the silver Rancor, I wanted to keep going. I did a bunch of more kills, but nothing ended up happening. A few more kills into a fresh task, it finally happened. The Noxious Blade dropped at kill number 1115. Definitely a bit over drop rate, but we got it done. After 5 days of killing Araxxor, I completely finished the boss. Minus the jar, but we don't care about that. So, I combined all of my pieces and created the Noxious Halberd. I don't really know how useful it will be since I have the soulreaper axe as a slash weapon, but what I do know is that I was only one item away from obtaining the silver Rancor. I still had a lot of araxytes left on task, so I decided to go for the boots. With a cannon and a venator bow, the task takes like 20 minutes. The araxytes have decent drops, they spawn superiors that have good imbued heart drop rates, and they offer really good XP per hour. It's also AFK. The superiors can easily kill you if you aren't paying enough attention, so make sure you just don't AFK too hard. I didn't get the boots the first task, but the next task I got lucky once again. I got the boots at 246 KC, which meant that I had every single item needed for the riddle. They have melee strength, magic attack bonus, and ranged attack bonus, so these boots honestly might be good for raids or some other contents. They have no defense requirement, so these boots might be best in slot for pures. But anyways, it was time to wrap this up. I just followed the wiki step by step until I got to the end. All you need to do is go through a bunch of tunnels and talk to the NPCs with the items needed for the riddle. This random guy ended up thanking me, he died, and I got the amulet, which means the Araxxor grind has come to an end, and I was looking like an absolute beast. I tried the aranea boots out at Arachnis for a bit, and I learned that you can completely AFK the boss now, especially with the Blood Fury. All you need to do is click the boss once and the fight is done. The boots completely negate web-based attacks, so you always stay on the boss. I got a bunch of spider eggs without even trying. I ended up with 14 Master Caskets from the Araxxor grind, although I didn't get anything worth showing from the opening besides these half-moon spectacles. I got a Mimic as well, but it was pretty underwhelming. Unfortunately, on the first day of Araxxor, none of the loot was being shown. Hopefully you guys don't mind, I didn't feel like killing more Araxxor. But based off of what was being tracked, Araxxor gave me 32.5 mil in standard loot. At the time of finishing the halberd, it was worth around 30 mil. And the Rancor was worth 80 mil, so in grand total I made over 142.5 million GP from 5 days of Araxxor, probably closer to 145 mil from the 114 kills missing. It's safe to say that Araxxor is a good Slayer boss, probably one of the best. This whole update was definitely a big success. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time with the Iron Man Progress series.